Imagine a vibrant discussion between people that includes both openness and critical thought in the pursuit of truth. The Purchasing Truth podcast is an experience, a journey, an exploration of the impact that negative messages in politics and the media have on our families, community, society, and nation. Join your hosts, Bill Stierle and Tom Hazard, to discover new concepts and language strategies that will reveal effective ways of establishing truth. This podcast series will tackle current events, leadership challenges, healthcare confusion, integrity in business, and many other areas that affect us all. Gain clarity and understanding of the various truth perspectives. Welcome to Purchasing Truth.
Welcome to Purchasing Truth. I'm Tom Hazard, along with your host, Bill Stierle. And, Bill, my goodness, there's so much going on in our society here in America, especially with regard to social media. And it seems the timing of things right now is quite interesting, with Elon Musk look like he's on a path to purchase Twitter. And there's a lot of speculation as to what that means. And at the same time, a very interesting article in the Atlantic came out from Jonathan Haidt that talks about, largely what social media has done to America. And boy, so many things to discuss here.
Really great topics to start with is that we are going through a extraordinary revolution in reference to communication and how communication is moved. Our brains, our limbic brains, are not meant to process this amount of information all at once, all the time. It's just not meant to do this rate of things. Flipping through, whether it's TikTok or for, little videos that you're watching, or if you're flipping through Tinder for dates, for gosh sake, it's like just too much choice and too much to process. And it really affects a primary need of ours as human beings, is stability that is based on a healthy choice. Same as food. How many different kinds of choices? I can drive down a street right down here near my block, and I will never get to eat at every one of these different places. And there's 5 different pizza shops. I got to pick one. And then I stick with it. Or do I go with a brand because it delivers? It's really, really tough for us as human beings. And I'm really glad you brought up the Elon Musk things, because that one has to do with how that is going to impact, if he's in charge of communication, what will he do and what kind of influence will he have, on that company and how they communicate. Well, different people think he's going to do different things on it. And all of a sudden we're into tribalism again.
Boy, I'll tell you, that is the thing that I see from not just, reading these articles that like the Jonathan Haidt article, by the way, is on the Atlantic, and it is now getting a huge amount of traction and attention. And this isn't just because he's like, on a PR tour. I mean, that always helps, but this article has gotten more reads and shares than anything on the Atlantic in a very long time. So it's definitely struck a nerve. Yes. And we have the link to it in the blog post at purchasingtruth.com for those that want to read it. But what this whole tribalism issue, I mean, social media very clearly is giving people a place where, it's feeding people's biases, and they, more easily find people that, reinforcing their beliefs without challenging them. And he talks about, America becoming more stupid because of this, which is very interesting choice of words, because we're not fostering any kind of civil discourse or debate to really learn. It's more of just team sport, cheering on and trash talking each other, the other side. I mean, oversimplifying it to an extent, but I mean, I was shocked. We have someone you and I both know and are connected with on social media, on Facebook, posing a question about the Elon Musk thing, really just posing a question of, hey, do you think this is a good thing that a billionaire would buy this platform or not?
Right.
And an open-ended question, and holy mackerel, he did not expect the tsunami of comments. and
Weighing
it
in.
and weighing in, but the comments were definitely very much for or against. It was very, as you and I've talked about, black and white thinking. There
Right.
wasn't any civil well, any is too
Limited.
extreme. There was very limited civil discourse and debate,
Yes.
more opinion, either praising Trump that he's going to save the platform or vilifying him that he's going to destroy it. And none of the people commenting truly have any knowledge to know one way or the other what Elon Musk is thinking.
Right. Right. And
And wow, it's disheartening, and to see that there's a lack of, that civil discourse and a certain level of thoughtful, and I hesitate to use the word, and you may say, you may
yeah.
put me in the penalty box for this one, Bill, but intelligent discussion, I guess, is that, I don't know if that's the right word to use, but I mean, there's
Well, I
not.
appreciate you using the word intelligent here at this point, because intelligence really goes, it's an interesting word because it goes right in the face of the three world perspectives that human beings have got to get a hold of. Is that we do have certain biases that causes us to be stable, and we think that we're intelligent with our bias because we can validate the bias. We can think we're intelligent because we can validate the fallacy. That's number two. Number three, we can reinforce the bias and the fallacy to generate a stable belief with no evidence. Why? Because we just know it's so. So the word bias, the word fallacy, and our limiting beliefs, people don't like to poke at, Tom. They just don't, because it causes us to question our reality as well as what we stand for. It's easier to stand for someone that's confident and wrong. It's easier to stand for, to support that person that's confident and wrong, rather than to say, maybe this person's not telling me the truth. And that is the wedge that an authoritarian or a fascist or a leader that is trying to get their country or company to go in a direction that they want, it's that type of communication, all it's doing is reinforcing where the person is, not trying to engage what's best.
And it seems that a huge part of America, and this may be happening in many ways all over the world, but I'm not gonna
Right.
sort of comment on that because I don't have enough experience of, obviously people's views in other countries. I'm
Right.
seeing more what's happening here in the United States of America, but it seems that people are really not interested. They're not curious to learn the truth. They seem to that they're more interested in or more comfortable taking a position on something and digging in their heels and being, I'm with that guy. This is, I'm on his team. This is my opinion. Everyone else is wrong and I'm right. They're not interested in having a discussion to learn, is this true or is it not? It
No, no, they want simplicity. They want simplicity in and they want to create pockets of certainty. If I go into, and now all of a sudden I'm having flashbacks here. If I go into a different state, into a different city, and I say the following sentence: I grew up in Florida. Oh, you're one of those Florida man. Wait a minute. Yeah, I live in California. I've lived in California for over 30 years. Oh, you're one of those California people. I went to college in Kansas. Oh, you're from Kansas. Tom, I just gave 3 different locations, and it immediately activated inside the listener and inside your brain some supposed evidence about the way I think. Oh, I have, and then all of a sudden, all I got to do is stick something on there. I vacationed in Bali. What does that mean? I scraped together some nickels and flew there and had my birthday. You see what I mean? It's like people then, because it's either inside their worldview or not inside their worldview, or have gained a little bit of information about, then what happens is they are ready to put me in a box. Florida man, California man, Kansas City man, vacationer in Bali. He must be rich. It's like any kind, we have no control of the narrative. So the only way to get control of the narrative is to come back to a base language of speaking from our values, which are things like fairness, or what does, consideration look like? What does cooperation look like? What does mutual respect look like? How can we gain equity here? Now, all of a sudden, all of those terms that I said, Florida, the conversation is completely changed. Now it's like, oh, he's interested in what I'm interested in. I'm interested in fairness. I've just obliterated time and space by just changing my word choice. And that's what's fun about doing this show, is that we're trying to get people to listen to that, choosing a language shift and a word choice. Because if a company wants to focus on efficiency because they haven't been efficient very much to save a couple of dollars, that might be a common value that the company chooses to go after. Then all of a sudden things start to go better because they're paying attention to a value that they can all stand by. But you can't get there from biases and fallacies and limiting beliefs about the other person. You can't get there by using labels and diagnoses. Nope. You can't get there from criticism and defensiveness and contempt and withdrawal. You can't get there. And that's where our society is on that other language, tragic language place. And that's what's so nice about the article, is it really kind of goes into that a little bit.
It does go into it quite a bit, and it really highlights, the challenge of modern social media. I mean, it is really a challenging space right now, and it is not serving to, as much the free exchange of ideas and this sort of debate. It really is more of just a place for people to hang out with, people that support things you already believe. It's not really meant to challenge what any of us are thinking or to help us learn from each other. That's not what the algorithms are reinforced to do. It's reinforced to either stoke your fears about something or reinforce your beliefs about something. They don't feed you things that intentionally challenge your view. Bill, at one point, I forget if we talked about this in an episode or just you and I talked about it, but there was this study done where they took, a significant number of Fox viewers and paid them to watch CNN.
Oh, yes.
Maybe we did
Those-
talk about that
we
in an
did this
episode.
show. Yeah.
And people were forced, because they're being paid, and that motivated them to be willing to do what was asked of them. They viewed CNN for a period of time. I'm talking like certain hours a day for weeks.
Yeah, for a month or
a
so.
month,
30
yeah.
30 days.
That their thoughts were challenged, and they were really forced to be exposed to other messages, and it changed some of their thinking, because they weren't just sitting in this place of team reinforcement of messages, and nothing is forcing people to do that. And if we're not curious
Right.
to learn, this is why I think Jonathan Haidt says, America is getting, in the last 10 years, has gotten more stupid, definitely drawing a parallel to the rise of social media platforms and doing this. It's really scary. And it also, to me, explains why, and Bill, I wasn't necessarily gonna talk about this in this episode, and of course we can take a deeper dive another time, but there's this what's happened here recently in Washington, D.C. with this January 6th committee on the insurrection is that, Kevin McCarthy, of course, who's the House minority leader currently, the number one Republican in the House,
Yes.
has repeatedly said that, he never thought about, asking Trump to resign and all this sort of things. Well, he actually specifically has come out making statements himself verbally and in writing that he didn't do certain things. He didn't talk to Trump about this or that, or he didn't say to other Republicans, enough is enough. We're not gonna, follow Trump anymore, and he needs to, we need to push him out of the party. He never said that. And then, of course, a recording comes out that is fact. He didn't challenge, he said it, that it's a fake tape or whatever. He said these things, and nobody seems to be caring and as much as you would expect, that here we have proof. And even he, when asked about it, quickly just deflects it and puts more attention on, the southern border crisis, pivoting, which as a communication tactic may be good for him. But it's amazing, even when we have actual fact and proof, it doesn't seem to get people's attention as much as what gets their attention are things that reinforce their beliefs, which social media is doing.
It's the new narrative is that if you don't own what you said, then you leave it up to others to interpret it. I would just love a reporter one time, when a person goes into a deflective sentence, to just say, oh, and lions and tigers and bears are also coming across the border. We really got to put a moat up to prevent the alligators from coming over the border. Boy, I'm really glad you and the senators are down here to keep alligators from coming across the border, and create a extraordinary nonsense to kind of really put a spotlight on the craziness of the distraction language. Now, that is my funny communication self talking right now. But really, the most powerful way to do it is actually to go, you are scared of immigrants, and your party is really interested in not letting any more immigrants coming in here. You don't want any more immigrants to come in the country. Gosh, I wonder what's going to happen to our workforce because of your choice about keeping immigrants. I guess more Americans are going to just have to do lower wage jobs. Is that what you're looking for?
Can you imagine if a reporter actually attempted that?
Just go like, yeah, I guess, you know what? It's good, because then you can suppress the wages and keep the minimum wage down, so people really can't make a living here. But, I guess you could choose to do this, and we don't have a steady flow of immigrants that want the opportunity of being an American and work at a lower wage job. And it seems like you want to cut out the workforce that's coming in to help certain companies. And you're not interested in new workforce. You want Americans to do lower pay jobs and keep that lower. Is that what you're asking for? And that's why you want to wall up? Because that's what it does. See, there's no, this is the reporter getting in the game of challenge. Now, that's why cable news has exploded, is because regular news people are just reporting what the person is saying, not calling the person to task about what they're saying. And when you said the word intelligence a little earlier, that's not what's happening. The person's just reinforcing beliefs and biases. That's all the politician is doing, is just reinforcing the belief and bias that there is a crisis on the border again, as if there's a huge crisis. There is a problem down there. I'm not like naive and rose colored glasses. There's problems when you either constrict immigration and don't work with the process of people coming and going across the border in a healthy way. There's a problem with that. There is a problem with demonizing immigrants. There's a big problem with that. So this is we're in a very challenging situation because of the way things are being communicated.
And that is really the point, Bill. We are in a very challenging situation, and there seems, it not only does there seem to be a lack of curiosity in general among our society to really seek the truth, or a lack of curiosity to seek it, or to expand your thinking on things, to consider other perspectives, to arrive at what you believe is true. And we see this in social media. Social media is not helping it, because it plays into our biases and beliefs, amplifies them, gets people more enraged, because that keeps people's attention on social media. They want more eyeballs to stay in the app, spend more time there, don't go other places. And how do you do that? You reinforce your beliefs, and you either feel comfortable or you get more enraged, and all these sorts of things. But what's if we as a society are not interested in truth, then this whole Kevin McCarthy thing is just so interesting to me, because it was a bombshell. We're getting to a place where integrity may be a word that ends up needing to get removed from the English dictionary, because a politician like this is not being held to account for the things that they say. They're not being held to be responsible for having integrity. It's like, oh, it doesn't matter, he said this thing back on January 6th, 7th, or 8th, that and it's recorded, we can all hear it, and then he's been saying something very different ever since. And it really shows you that he doesn't really he's not interested in being accountable for anything. He's interested in whatever he needs to do to get more people to be on his side at any given moment, leaning whichever way the wind blows, right?
What the word accountable falls.
I know, it's flat word, isn't it?
Falls away, because loyalty to party or team, or this is the brand I'm fighting for, and this is where it's sticking. I don't want to shift. See the Republicans had a chance to keep their party alive. They had a chance, and the chance that they had was to let Trump know that he didn't have the votes to overcome. You're going to be impeached. There's nothing I can do about it. You've pissed off enough of the Republicans. There's enough walking across the line. I can't hold it together. You've got to resign, or you're going to get thrown out. Do you want to get thrown out, or would you rather just resign? And Mitch McConnell never had the courage to deliver that message. And Kevin McCarthy never had the courage to deliver that message, to say, we don't have the votes. And Trump would say, who? I'll call every one of them. I'll ruin every one of them. And they didn't keep their list tight. They needed to have it to be a number that it was too big for him to overcome. And then he would have fell like a star that shoot, a meteorite and burned up in the atmosphere. But they didn't take that course. They said, okay, I think it's just going to fade naturally, and I just want to keep my peeps together. And then I want to stay after the mucky muck of overtly gerrymandering and changing the rules for voting. And immediately it's going like, that's not what we're supposed to be doing here as a part of America. We're not supposed to be doing that. And the slingshot, it's almost like the slingshot to go back, to, having people standing for that next set of values, whether it's mutual respect and being able to have, healthy relationships with Republicans and Democrats together. Like, it was as the article had mentioned, is Newt Gingrich in 1994, when the Republicans was coming, he discouraged people from moving to the Republicans from moving to DC, because then their families would have got to know each other, the wives of each party, and the families would have got, because then it would humanize the other side. It's not like they're just the same as us. No, he's the first person that started the process of the separation.
So trying to keep the teams separate and not getting to know each other, not actually having relationships and mutual understanding and respect, and
the social ties. You're gonna, so he disrupted the social ties, and then guess what? All of a sudden it's us versus them, instead of what does a collaborative experience look like. You've got to be able to stay in a relationship and go like, yeah, that was a good thing. Well, I don't really agree with it, but my wife's, the two wives like each other, and sometimes I'm going to vote with them, and sometimes I'm not going to vote with them. And that's the thing that's really challenging and problematic. So there's a lot to talk about in this area, and I think the next time, one of the things we can really pull a thread on is, how do you restore accountability in the process, and how to step into accountability in a new way, with the language of compassion and empathy. What does that do when you ask somebody, hey, listen, I'd like mutual respect between the two of us, and then you actually have to have that safe and vibrant and intelligent discussion about what respect would look like, because screaming at each other sure isn't going to get us there.
Yeah, I'd like to continue that discussion, Bill. And I think it ties into not only each of us individually with the people we interact with, but also I think it comes back to this whole question of social media and Twitter and Elon Musk, and what happens with that type of a platform going forward. I think it actually all relates, and of course to our government, and are we going to hold our leaders accountable for being truthful and all that. Okay, well, thanks so much, Bill.
All right, thanks everybody.
Thank you for listening to this Purchasing Truth podcast. We trust that you have enjoyed this engaging and thought-provoking conversation. Our hope is that you've received value, found clarity, and broadened your truth perspective in this episode. If you did, leave us a review or visit our website, purchasingtruth.com. Join us again for another informative and content-rich discussion here at the Purchasing Truth Podcast. Don't just accept whatever information comes your way. Join the discussion. Discover your own voice. Purchase your own truth.